for those that are dialing in late. Okay, well, I think we'll get started. If everybody's ready on the Accellos end, we'll get started. First of all, welcome and thank you to everyone that's joining the Accellos Pulse WebEx today. My name is Mike Raymond. I'm a Strategic Accounts Manager here at Accellos, and hopefully everyone on the other, hopefully all the customers that are on the line are avoiding all of the torrential rains in the south and southeast and the fires in the western part of the country. As many of you know, Accellos, we have offices in Plymouth, Michigan, Columbus, Ohio, Toronto, the suburbs of Toronto, Markham, and Bloomfield, Connecticut. But our headquarters are in Colorado Springs, and as most of you have heard, there's another forest fire that has broken out there. I know it's affected a couple of our employees as a town just west of our offices has been evacuated. So it's near and dear to all the folks in Colorado Springs. And on the phone today, we have myself in Michigan. We have Ashley Saunders, our marketing coordinator in Bloomfield, Connecticut. And in our Colorado Springs office, we have Josh Christian, a product manager, and Ross Elliott, who perhaps is a name many of you know, is our Chief Technology Officer. So I'll just give a real brief introduction. I think most of the people on the phone here obviously are familiar with Accellos, but just in case there is some newer users to the audience today, I'll just give a brief introduction, and then I'll turn the discussion over to Ross and to Josh Christian, who will kind of walk through the content and the meat of today. So Accellos is the global provider of software solutions in the small and medium-sized business market, specifically for logistics service providers. And I think we're really proud of the fact that over 3,000 companies now rely on us as their technology background for their global supply chain information. So as I said, I think probably 99% of the customers on the call today are probably users of our warehouse management system, but we also are a leading provider in third-party logistics, in fleet management, in transportation management, in EDI, in automated barcode data collection, parcel shipping, transportation optimization, and the piece that we're going to be looking at today, supply chain business intelligence. So on that brief introduction, I will turn the agenda over to Ross Elliott and Josh Christian, and I'm guessing Ross is probably, for the purpose of this, is probably muted everyone on the call, but at the end we'll certainly have some time for Q&A, and if anything gets too deeply technical or something, we can always follow up with one-on-one calls, but we'll certainly have some time for some Q&A afterwards. So on that note, I will turn it over to Ross and Josh in Colorado Springs.
Thanks, Mike. There's actually three of us in the room, too. It's Sean Elliott, Josh Christian, and myself. Thanks for everybody for joining us today. I'll give a caveat on. Mike commented on torrential rainstorms and forest fires. Well, being the I was going to say hardy traveler, but this is probably foolhardy traveler would be more appropriate. I flew into the heart of the tropical storm on Sunday for a meeting in Orlando yesterday, and then flew back to the forest fire last night. So I can firsthand tell you howling winds, driving rain, southeast, need for howling winds and driving rain in Colorado to put out some of the fires. There's 5,200 acres at this stage of the game burning within a quarter mile of homes here in Colorado Springs. So we're actually thinking very carefully about our friends and families that are in the neighborhood. The other caveat I'll give you is the person that was going to give this presentation came down sick at the last minute, so we're scrambling a little bit. If we have a hiccup here or there, please forgive us. It's only because we started preparing for this about 20 minutes ago. So I think we've got some good content to go through with you on the Pulse product, and many of you may have heard of it or seen it as we go through time. So let me spend a little bit of time in PowerPoint. We'll spend most of our time actually in the product to give you an idea of what's going on. And Mike, I didn't mute anybody because I didn't know I was supposed to. So please do me a favor, everybody, keep your comments to the end of the presentation if you wouldn't mind, in respect for the other folks listening on the end of the phone. So I think everybody understands what we have tried to build. Pulse has actually been in the market for a couple of years now. We built it upon the framework that is now known as the AccellosOne platform, where all of our products are migrating, and I'm going to spend a minute or so just on the platform and where it's at, as well as Pulse, because I think it's important to understand the technological framework that this product is built upon and then the value we think it drives back to each of your businesses. But it's all about knowing what's going on in real time within your organization across a broad group of subjects. Oftentimes you'll find in warehouse products in particular, there'll be a few warehouse metrics that are capable of being pulled, but nothing that kind of crosses the boundary between the warehouse and transportation and your ERP and so on and so forth. And what we've tried to build with Pulse is a solution that can drive value in the form of alerts and key performance indicators across a broader group of underlying assets, if you will, so that at a single glance you've got one version of the truth that you can have access to help you make informed decisions about what goes on within the day-to-day operations. Pulse really consists of three kind of primary pieces. It's kind of a do-it-yourself in the vernacular dashboard tool. We ship it with a number of key performance indicators or kind of constructor elements, tinker toys, if you will, that allow you to build the dashboards the way you want to build them. You can build your own key performance indicators, and we'll show you a little bit about that when we get into the product. It includes things called pivots. If you're familiar with Excel, pivot tables are things you probably do today. Oftentimes pivot tables are based on things that people type into a spreadsheet and then create those pivots. What we've done is we've attached the pivots natively through SQL queries into the underlying database, whether it's the WMS or something else. So you've got a real-time look from a pivot table perspective at information that's going on within your system at that point in time. And then lastly, and certainly not least importantly, are alerts. For those of you that have been running our WMS solution or its predecessor naming convention, Radio Beacon, for some period of time, you remember that there have been some alerts inside of the application for some period of time. This is a much more broadly available set of alerts that Pulse authors, if you will, and then allows you to drive those alerts back to your desktop, to an email, to a text message on your phone or your customer's phone, or your sales rep's phone, or whatever the case might be. We'll probably spend the least amount of time today on alerts. We just want to conceptually talk about what they do. We'll spend most of our time on the dashboards, the pivots, and a little bit of time on the authoring tool on how you can extend the KPIs that we believe might be valuable to you to the things that you see in your own business. The whole concept here is that anyone could be the audience. You know, in many cases, you rely upon reports or you rely upon a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet or whatever the case might be to deliver this kind of information. But our feeling is that the audience is broad and the audience could be anywhere. So we deliver it through a browser, and we use tools inside of the platform that allow you to take one common KPI, one common pivot table, one common alert, and wrapper it with something that is we call an identity claim that determines the actual data that underlies that KPI or that dashboard or that pivot based on who logged in. That means that you can extend the capabilities of viewing these dashboards out to your customers, your vendors, people who you might believe would find the information valuable, and only deliver to their browser that piece of information that's pertinent to them, even though the actual key performance indicator could be the same across a broader audience. We'll talk more about that as we go through the process. So we'll talk a little bit about each of these, and I'm actually going to show them to you. The dashboards are the things that most people resonate with when they think about supply chain intelligence. Those are the ones that visually deliver information to your desktop that's updated on whatever regularity you choose for it to be updated, and they're built as templated dashboards. So you can build a series of dashboards that are important, and then you can publish those out to the audience within your organization or your extended organization, so that rather than them having to create their own dashboards, they simply pick and choose from the dashboards you've made available to them, and they can start using the information very rapidly. Same thing for the pivots. They're drawn from any SQL database, whether it's ours or someone else's. You can span multiple systems, so you can have pivots on one page that might be looking at your underlying ERP system, a Dynamics product, an SAP Business One product, a Sage product, whatever it might be, as well as one of our products, and it could span multiples of our products. We talked a little bit about alerts, so I'm going to skip that slide. You know, it's always good to have a case study. We're hoping we can put this one in video form and make it available to people. But one of our poster children for our product is a company called Hall's Warehouse in New Jersey. Hall's has taken this product probably farther than we ever expected anyone to take it. From an authoring perspective, we ship it with 50 or 60 KPIs out of the box. They've probably added another 200 KPIs on top of that were important to their business. And as you can see, they've driven good value back down into their business as a result of the use of this tool. And it's really the old adage of inspect what you expect. If you watch it, monitor it, and other people within the organization watch it, monitor it, excuse me, and are held accountable, then all of a sudden behaviors begin to change to the positive. So let's flip out of the PowerPoint now and drop into the product itself. And I'm going to spend just a couple of minutes here and walk you through the AccellosOne platform, because I'm not sure that all of you have seen this, and even for those of you that have seen it, there have been some substantial improvements in it as we've gone through the last few releases that you perhaps haven't seen. So if you recall, we used the new user experience, we mirrored it after Microsoft Office, and so you see familiar things like ribbon lines across the top, navigation that looks a lot like Microsoft Outlook, and then internal to a process, things that look much like Excel. And the notion there was, as you bring new people into your organization, or you make these products available to new people that may not have used it within your organization, we want to make it as familiar as possible, as easy to learn, as intuitive, because at the end of the day, it should be a tool that drives value to the bottom line of your business, that everyone can take advantage of as quickly as possible and begin to see benefits out of it. For those of you running the traditional warehouse solution, what you're looking at is something I would tell you we'll have webinars on here in the near future. This is actually the latest generation of what you probably know as Web Dispatch, complete with a new form of pivot grid, and so you'll start seeing things much more graphically as we move into the new framework of the application. Again, for those of you who haven't seen our AccellosOne platform, it's built around the notion of visible workspaces. And so rather than having simply one form on a screen, there are multiple forms on a screen. In this case, I've organized something that might be typical for a warehouse operator, so that I can look at sales orders, I can look at receipts, I can look at appointments from an appointment scheduling standpoint from my doctor. I might be able to look at delivery visibility in terms of the status of my parcel shipments or my LTL shipments. And then finally, I may want to drill right into that dashboard we talked about a moment ago. So let's spend a little time on the product we call Pulse. And if you noticed, from a menu standpoint, Pulse is simply one of the menu items out here, along with all the other applications that are in the framework, our parcel shipping app, our visibility app, which you just saw, our scheduling app, our route and load optimization solution, our document imaging solution, our activity billing solution for third-party logistics companies, or for distributors, manufacturers who might have a little bit of spare warehouse space hanging around that they want to generate a few dollars on by renting it to someone on an activity basis from an operations standpoint. Let's focus on Pulse. And as you can see, we drill this down into multiple different pieces. The admin function, I mentioned to you before that not only do we ship you 50 or 60 out-of-the-box key performance indicators, or KPIs, but we give you the capability of really authoring those yourself. So as you can see, our Key Performance Indicator Work Center is the means by which you go and find those, modify them, copy them, make them available to certain people within your organization, add those identity claims to tie down the information perhaps for specific customers or vendors or partners that you might want to release that information to in the field, and author new key performance indicators. So authoring a key performance indicator is as simple as understanding the SQL syntax and entering that SQL syntax into the system. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the techie portion of this, but if you can write a query to pull information from your database, you can author a KPI within the Pulse system. And we give you all kinds of cool tools to help you drill into that information as well. Then once you've got the SQL syntax in place, and we've tested it and proven that it's operational, you define what you want to look at. Do you want to look at charts, any kinds of graphs and so forth? Do you want to look at grids, things that come back that look more like a spreadsheet? Do you want to look at things in gauge format? So we support 3 different styles of dashboard element, either a chart, and there's an extensive palette in terms of types of charts, a grid, a spreadsheet that you can export information right from that grid into Excel, or a comma-separated value file, or a gauge, and then you can set the high, low, medium kinds of indicators in those gauges so that at a glance you can determine the health of that particular key performance indicator within your business, as well as, again, extend that out to the people in your audience. You can see now I've generated a workspace here called Dashboard, set it up. I've got multiple tabs inside that workspace. The other feature of the platform itself is if you really want to get tricky, you can drag and drop and create these workspaces any way you'd like to see them. And so I could have multiple dashboards side by side. You could prefer to have those dashboards perhaps at bottom and top, or like I had in the beginning, you can simply stack them in here on tabs throughout. Once you've got those set up the way you'd like them, you can persist them. You can share them out to other people within your organization. Certainly that's how you would define dashboards that you wanted to deliver to your outside audience. And so what you fundamentally have available to you is this rich development environment to build KPIs, utilize the KPIs that we already have built for you, establish the kinds of dashboards that make sense for you across one product or many, and then publish those out both to your internal audience and to a potential external audience in a way that's meaningful for them, so that all they really have to do is log into your system and off to the races they go. Now what we're looking at here is we're looking at operational information coming out of the WMS. So I'm looking at picked lines by month, received lines by month. The way I created that particular pane, if you will, or set of information in my dashboard is I came up here and said I want to add a KPI to this particular dashboard. I want to choose which company I'm working on. Since we support within the operation both multi-tenancy, meaning discrete groups of companies, and then multi-company within the operation, you can choose which company you want to work with and then drill this down to the appropriate metrics for that company. Then within the company, what product do I want to pull information from? Is it our scheduling app, our shipping app, our EDI solution, or the warehouse product? Once we're within the warehouse, let's think about where I want to pull information from. So let's look at some more picking KPIs, and then within picking, I've got a group of additional KPIs to look at here. So if I looked at damaged products by month, clicked over to my general information, I get a default title, but I can change that title to choose whether I want to see a chart or a grid. Now I mentioned when we went through the setup, you could choose chart, grid, or gauge. You actually can choose all of them if you chose to do so, and if the data underlying them was appropriate both for a chart, a grid, and a gauge. But certainly you can pick and choose which ones you'd like. You notice this refresh interval gives you the chance to have them be real-time analytics. In many cases, when you look at business intelligence or supply chain intelligence, it's historical data. I'm looking at something that occurred yesterday, the day before, a week before, a month before, last year, and I'm comparing this month to last month, those kinds of things. We believe there are really two kinds. There's strategic and tactical analytics. Strategic analytics are those that look over time to give me some indication of the health of my business today compared to where it was at some time period previously. A tactical analytic is something that's measuring things at this moment in time. I need to take action today based on something where I've got a late appointment, where I've got something in terms of a threshold of number of orders to be shipped today. And when I reach that threshold, I may want to see it in a gauge. I may want that to be one of those alerts that we talked about before to trigger something going to the warehouse manager's cell phone that says you've now reached 20 orders that have to be picked within the next hour to meet an arriving truck that's going to pick all those things up, get on it, get down to the warehouse, make sure that gets done. All of that starts with the key performance indicators we've talked about before, and what this refresh interval simply does on the screen is decide whether I'm looking at historic information, in which case I'm not refreshing it, or if I'm looking at tactical information like those late appointments where I want to refresh it on some interval, every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 seconds, whatever you choose to do, in which case that happens automatically for you. The filters are things that can be set up inside of the KPI or alert to filter down information, perhaps by division within your organization, perhaps by warehouse or location. Some of the KPIs have pre-built filters. You can certainly add filters if they're important to you, and those filters are available then to segregate the information you're going to look at. The one filter that's generally speaking always available are things like date filters, and so I can look at the variety of different types of dates. In this case, I'm going to look at this year, so I'll tie it down to this year, and then I can choose the kind of chart I mentioned, 2D, 3D, a goal line value if it's a bar chart of any type, and then as you can see, a variety of different types of charts that I could use. I always like these bubble charts, so we'll use one from a bubble chart perspective. And I have one bubble, so that's pretty cool. What you can do now inside here is reorganize these the way that makes sense to you. You can actually enlarge one at the expense of the other, toggle them back and forth if you choose to. And many of our customers have asked us for the ability to do that kind of automatically, so to speak. So if I go over and look at shipment management, I'm looking at warehouse management information here. I'm looking at all the shipment metrics in terms of packages by day, volume by region, cost by carrier, cost by pound, so on and so forth for individual carriers. Similar information coming from a different data structure inside the same dashboard structure, could be inside the same actual dashboard if you chose to do so. But what our customers have asked us for is, hey, I want to put a 50-inch TV out in the warehouse. Because once again, if you think about this, inspect what I expect, make that information available to the right people, and then hold them accountable to keeping the metrics where you want them to be. Visibility is a great part of that. So if I put this out in the warehouse, and I say, let's start this in marquee mode, I want to refresh it every 5 seconds, and I don't necessarily, for this purposes of this demo, I don't want to refresh the actual underlying information. I'm just going to rotate this thing through so that you all have an idea of how it works. Now picture that as a 50-inch TV out in your warehouse, and what this is doing is simply rotating through the metrics so that on a day-in, day-out basis, people can see how they're doing within the operation. And then once I'm done with that, I can simply come down here and stop the marquee and refresh it back to the way I had it before, if that's what I choose to do. All right, so that's kind of the dashboarding tool. Let's spend a minute on the pivot tool. I mentioned the pivot tool is sort of an embedded pivot table, very similar to what you might find in Microsoft Excel. So what I've done is I've taken that same shipment information that many of those shipment management KPIs you saw on the dashboard were drawn from, and I'm going to build one here fairly simply for you. And what I may want to look at is my base rate costs and maybe by carrier. So I can simply put my base rate cost by carrier out there, and I've got a fairly interesting set of information, but not as interesting as I might like it. Now I could then come down here and say, gee, you know, I want to look at it by shipper. So there's my shippers. And a shipper, think of a shipper as a contract with the carrier. So I might, within my company, be shipping, if I'm a 3PL in particular, shipping on behalf of multiple shippers and have different rate structures inside of each of those shippers and want to manage and review information by each of those shippers. So now I've got, with a couple of real quick moves, I know how much I've got with each carrier. I know how much I've got by each carrier by shipper. Excuse me. Maybe it would be good to know that same information oh, I don't know, what would be good here? By state. So where was it shipped to? So now within each of the shippers, so with shipper A1, I can see by state. Within the shipper Accellos, I can see by state. Within Canada, Columbus, Tri-State, VSync, I can see all that information by state. So state might be overkill. Let's lose that one, come back to shipper. Now let's say what I really want to do is I don't want to see all the shippers. I only want to see Canada Post. And so I'll choose Canada Post only. And what I want to look at, well, let's accept that. Now let's come back and refine that a bit and say, based on looking at Canada Post, what I want to do is I want to highlight any of those where the values on an absolute basis exceed 75. And what I want to do is I want to set the background color to green. That worked really well. You got to love it when your example didn't work for you. And I think no, sorry about that. I must have done something incorrectly. That's back to that hiccup I mentioned to you before in terms of preparation. I've only done this about 100 times, and today's the day that it doesn't want to work for me. The idea is you can highlight elements that make sense to you to stand out, both high and low. And once you're done with that, you can either export it to a spreadsheet, you can save it, and then once you save that as a specific pivot view, you can publish that back out both internally and externally to the audience that you're addressing with the key performance indicators in this case. So that's basically the general purpose of Pulse. So to reiterate, we talked about alerts. We've shown some examples of where an alert might make sense. We've talked about dashboards, how they're constructed from key performance indicators, how you can build your dashboards on the fly, how you can publish those dashboards, how you can use things like the marquee mode to make that information visible to an audience within your organization, how pivot tables can allow you to slice and dice and publish information where previously in the past you might have needed a reporting tool to go do that. And generally speaking, the goal of this product is to take information, make it easily available from within the system and easily deliverable to people both within your organization and outside of your organization. So let's bounce back into the PowerPoint here, kind of finish up. And I'll try to summarize, and then we'll open it to Q&A, guys, if that's okay. The idea is to deliver the right information to the right people at the right time. The bane of most IT organizations, and I don't know if yours are like this or not, is that they have this monstrous backlog of requests from their users for, I need a report to do this, I need a report to do that, I need this information for this customer, I need this spreadsheet to deliver to this vendor. Well, with this tool, I hope you can see that by simply using a pivot, you can slice and dice and empower many of the people within your organization to do those exports, if you will, themselves. It can circumvent the need for reporting tools in terms of delivering value through the dashboards, and certainly with the alerts, we can set criteria up inside the alerts to deliver the right information to the right people in the right form to help them take action when they need it. It's fully extensible, so while we think we've got a pretty good starter kit, if you will, for key performance indicators based around the Warehouse Education and Research Center's list of what they think people should be looking at around perfect orders and pick velocity and so forth, every company's different. Certainly Hall's Warehouse is a great example of that. They used our 50 examples, said these are really cool, but these other 150 or 200 that we built ourselves are much more aligned around the needs we have for our business. And frankly, it's a rotating group. As we get one process under control, we're going to retire a KPI, and we're going to build new ones to go attack the areas within the organization we think we can improve by virtue of visibility and accountability. It can include information from anywhere, so it's not just tied to our warehouse system or our shipping system or our scheduling system. It can be pulled from Dynamics GP. It can be pulled from any of the underlying applications that make sense from your perspective. And lastly, I hope you saw easy to use, easy to support, simple to operate, affordable to implement. It's all part of the family of applications known as AccellosOne, and so there's nothing special about the application that sets it apart from other things that you have to install. And in fact, as you move through life with our warehousing application, as you saw, that warehouse application is all built into the same framework as the Pulse application and the shipping application and so forth. So we built this architecture, this platform, and we're building our applications all using it so that the experience for you and for your immediate audience within your company and those extended audiences outside your company are going to be common, familiar, and easy to deploy. So let me stop there, and since I didn't mute anybody, and thank you for your courtesy, or the fact everybody got off the phone when they found out I was presenting, I'm not sure which. We're certainly open for questions and answers.
Ashley actually muted it, so Ashley, if you can hear us, go ahead and unmute everybody.
You're all set.
So any questions, folks? Well, I guess I either did a really good job of explaining it to you or such a poor job that no one's interested or has any questions. We're happy to answer any questions if you're just shy. Offline, I will throw up Mike Raymond's name and contact information, but certainly feel free to contact myself or any of my team here as well. And you generally can find any of us by simply using firstname.lastname@accellos.com. And we're happy to respond to any technical questions that you might have, and certainly reach out to Mike with any questions about how the product is licensed and delivered and those kinds of things. He's right on top of that piece of it. So if there's no questions, and without further ado, then I'll thank you for your time and attention today, and we will we'll look forward to talking to you in future webinars.
Thanks, Ross.